We want to thank our sponsors today that make this program possible and complimentary for everybody. They are City Quiet Windows and Doors, K. Bender Rembam, our presenters today, Best Roofing. We have Plasterage Insurance, Oracle Profitability, Affordable Quality Painting, Titan Tech, Sherwin-Williams, the Falcon Group, South State, the Paving Lady, and Vote HOA Now. I will also stay on afterwards to help you all with the evaluation you have if you have any issues. I know I kind of rushed through this now, but we have to get through the material and get your CEUs so that our wonderful folks at Best Roofing can get to their next commitment. I want to now introduce our amazing presenter for today from Best Roofing. This is Anthony Fonseca. Anthony, take it away, my man. You're looking sharp.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the warm introduction, and thank you everyone for attending today. Once again, my name is Anthony Fonseca. I am the General Counsel and Chief Administrative Officer for Best Roofing. Today we're going to talk about peer-driven organizations. A very slight touch of roofing is sprinkled in there, but really it's basically talking about how we do what we do and how it drives certain success behaviors to help us become the organization that everyone knows and can trust and rely upon. I'll just jump into it. I know that we have a tight window today. I'll try to get through this in about 45 minutes because I know sometimes we do get a lot of questions. So I will try to get through this in a timely manner in case anyone does have any hot burning desire and questions they want to get to us. So without further ado, let's talk about peer-driven organizations and a little bit about how Best Roofing applies that practice to what we do on a daily basis. So again, my name is Anthony Fonseca. A large part of what I do at Best Roofing is obviously the general counsel speaks for itself. I manage risk management exposure. So I handle all the contracts. I make sure that I have safeguards in place to mitigate and protect the company from potential risks. But also I partner with condos, HOAs, consultants to make sure that we establish safeguards that protect both of us, right? Because a contract for one is not a contract for all. We're a true partner to the community, and that we want to make sure that we have bumpers in place that help protect both of us in the case that construction does not go according to plan. And if anyone knows anything about construction, that's just pretty much a given. And then the second part is Chief Administrative Officer. And really what that does is my job is to cast a vision 5 years, 10 years down the line of what Best Roofing looks like in the future, and then implement day-to-day strategies, goals, and performance metrics to help our day-to-day behaviors align with long-term vision. And everything is through the prism of the client experience. And so we'll talk a little bit about that today. So high level, what is a peer-driven organization? And we're going to be going through some key attributes of what makes it up, or the framework, some things that you recognize immediately, and maybe some experiences that you've had in other types of organizations. So big things here is decentralized. It's not going to be centralized power, centralized accountability. It's shared throughout the organization. Same thing with support. You can't just have one person doing all the cheering and the rah-rah. It has to be everyone is cheering for the successes of all, including your peers, even if you don't have that vertical or that the hierarchical relationship like a mentor, like a manager. Shared responsibility. We want to make sure that we win together, we lose together. Everyone is responsible for the successes, and everyone is responsible for the lessons learned. And that's how we can grow together. And then ultimately, it's a collaborative culture. Just because it's not part of my job description does not mean that I'm not going to help you in your role. And we believe in selfless leadership, that we're a servant leaderships. We want to make sure that everyone in the organization has the access and ability to seek help and guidance from anyone in the organization, regardless of their job title. And the most important ways that you can maintain that structure is having the ability to be agile and innovative. When you start collaborating and you have these characteristics, you're going to have innovative thought process. You're going to have the freedom to think. We have a slogan here that we give people permission to think, and that's not just a sarcastic slogan. It's really an empowerment to help the client experience. We want to have everyone engaged. Everyone must understand that their role is part of the long-term vision and success, that everyone understands that we have annual goals, long-term 5-10 year goals, and everyone understands how their day-to-day job impacts and helps us get there. So it's about engagement. It's about enhanced performance. When you have that innovative and that shared responsibility and that collaborative culture, you enhance the performance of everyone. Everyone starts understanding that I own part of the success. And now I can maybe detour from what was the original plan to put together a better plan. And they have the ability to do that. And at the end of the day, our goal is simple as executives of Best Roofing is that we must have a vision. We must cast a vision of what the future looks like, and we must bring hope and promise to achieve that. And you do that with day-to-day implementation, strategy, and ultimately, or most importantly, constant communication. So, really, what makes up of peer-driven organizations? Yes, employees. Starts there. We have individuals that make up employees. We say all the time that the most important asset that we carry in the organization, it's not equipment, it's not trucks, it's not materials, it's the people, because the people make up the client experience. Yes, those people are comprised of managers, bosses. We have a hierarchical structure. They understand that their job is to be servant leaders. So we want to have aspects of a family organization that benefit the structure, but we can talk about some of the negative that you want to avoid. And ultimately, yes, we have hierarchical structures in place where we have C-level, V-level, vice presidents all the way down. But the most important thing is everyone understands that the top of our organizational chart is the client. So one of the things you want to identify is what doesn't work, right? So sometimes you only know what works when you've experienced what does not work. So we talk about the hierarchical culture. That's where you have that boss mindset. It's because I said so. I'm the boss. I'm the one in charge. You do what I say. We've all been there. So, but the reality is there are some pros to that model in a prism, if you look at it, because when one person is making all the decisions, they're going to be accountable for the decisions made or the decisions not made. Because you have predictability. You know that if one person's always making decisions, you can maybe sometimes move about your day and not have to make those decisions. It's kind of like where you hear folks like Steve Jobs used to say, I have the same outfit I wear every day, because sometimes you get decision fatigue. And it's nice to remove decisions from your day to allow you to focus on what's most important. So he had the same outfit every day that he wore. Same thing here in a hierarchical structure. Sometimes when you have the hierarchical elements of your organization, you can remove decision fatigue because someone knows there's structure in place. The buck stops here. That person makes a decision. However, there's some negativities that's associated with that. Bottleneck, right? If one person's always making the decisions, you have time element where maybe they have 100 different people going to them to make a decision. And also you have the retention impact where someone may feel, well, I could have made that decision. Why did I have to wait 3 weeks for someone to tell me? So you have to balance where and when that can work out. An example of how that works out at Best Roofing is in legal, right? So risk management and compliance. We sign hundreds of contracts, thousands of contracts a year. I review all of them and ultimately will be the deciding factor of what we can and cannot execute. Because I have the benefit of looking through how we can protect our risk management, what job has different elements of risk that we want to address. If we have 220 employees at Best Roofing, if we had 228 different legal contract interpreters, that could just be a landmine of risk exposure that we don't want to take. I do get bottlenecked at times, but I try to get things moving within a 48-hour window to not hold our team up. But outside of that, you want to make sure that you empower your employees to make decisions. Real life examples on the roof. If we leave for the day and there's no rain in the forecast, but in South Florida, it happens. All of a sudden, a rain cloud pops up. Can you imagine what would happen in the event that a rain cloud pops up and that foreman says, well, I have to wait for Anthony to make a decision on whether or not I can tarp this roof or if I can maybe dry it in and stop work for the day. Can you imagine what would happen if I didn't get back timely? The client experience suffers. All of a sudden now we have a potential flood. We have leaks that go into the unit, and then we have damages. And the ultimate client experience suffers. Our reputational harm suffers. We have to deal with an upset client, understandably so. And then we hurt our property manager partners and consultants. We can't let that happen. So we allow the flexibility of all of our employees to make decisions when it's in the best interest of the client. We talked a little bit about how it can impact operational efficiency. It also impacts your employee morale. If I'm an employee and I feel that I contribute and I feel like I bring more to the table than just being a yes man or a yes woman, long-term future, I may feel like if I'm not being empowered to make decisions on behalf of the company, then I feel like there's a trust issue. And if I don't feel like I'm trusted, then I don't feel like I'm going to have the ability to grow. I'm going to be held back. So what does that do? It impacts my connectivity with the company and ultimately my morale. And ultimately, I would perhaps look elsewhere in the future where maybe I work for a company that doesn't have those restraints on me. So you got to be really careful on where you have these restraints in place, or you have the hierarchical safeguards like contractual compliance to not impact your employee morale. But for us, we see it as a competitive advantage in our company where we make sure that we have the permission to think mentality because it allows us to move quickly. Then we have where everyone's probably been in that organization, whether it's a family-run company or not. But we call it a family culture because it's about who you know, not what you do. And that's basically based on maybe who you have personal relationships with outside of the office or outside of the company versus what you do on a metric-based performance. We've all seen it. It's where the same group of people go out to maybe lunch every day, where maybe whenever you get a special project, it's always the same 3 or 4 people that get the attention on those jobs. But what happens is over time, you start see the employees that are not part of the clique start recognizing that. And they may be introverted. They may be quiet. They may just come to work with the blinders on of I'm here to do a job and I'm not here to socialize. And that's okay because there's different flavors that make up best roofing. It's like Ben and Jerry's. So you have to understand that we can't just reward or incentivize people based on relationships or who's more outgoing or who's a squeakier wheel. It has to be metric performance. Because real life example, it's if you see the same people every day that's going to lunch together, it may be innocent. It may just be because one day they all showed up at the same place and they just say, hey, why don't we just make a weekly routine out of this? But in the future, it may be, someone's perception is their own reality. So we talk about something in best roofing as leaders, you ought to think of yourself as a goldfish. A goldfish is what? It's a fish that is inside a glass bowl, invisible on all sides. You're constantly being watched how you move, what you do, if you're in a good mood or not, what you eat, who you hang out with, and that becomes someone's reality. So if one employee always sees the manager hanging out with the same people, if that employee starts to feel they have a valid complaint or criticism of that peer, they may be reluctant to bring it to that manager's attention out of a perceived fear of retaliation of this perceived special relationship. So we repeat and we talk about the fishbowl mentality. We talk about if you come in the office, be mindful, say hello to everyone, be engaging to everyone. Sometimes just having inside jokes with 1 or 2 employees may seem like you're excluding someone, even though you're just trying to connect and include someone. Just some helpful points of tips. And ultimately, we do this because we want to avoid perception of favoritism. We want to make sure everyone feels that they can raise a flag, a caution flag, or have constructive criticism about anybody. Some things and the reason why you do this is it's all about HR. It's all about culture, right? So when you start seeing the same few people maybe working together, it could be perceived that they're gossiping or there's a clique or it's perceived favoritism. They always get, certain jobs. If there's a 50-50 decision on who's going to get this special project and it goes one way, they're going to say, oh, I already know why. It's because John or Sally is always having Tuesday lunch at Chipotle with Jim, right? So that's what you want to avoid. So we talk about these things all the time. Be mindful of your team dynamics, be mindful of who you're connecting with, and understand that everyone has their perception of what the reality is. Another thing we talk about is the beach ball effect, right? Everyone has seen that classic beach ball. It's a white ball with different colored stripes. And as you hold that beach ball, and one day I'll have to bring it up here as a demonstrative aid, one stripe is blue because it's in front of my face. I see everything through the color of blue. But on your side, it's yellow. You see everything on that yellow stripe. And on the other side, it could be red. So you have to be mindful that everyone is seeing life through their color of the beach ball. And you have to be mindful that there are those different shades of perception. So just something that you can maybe take with you on how to avoid certain family dynamic culture negative effects. The beach ball and the goldfish, take those with you. It's all about me. Now, you typically see the it's all about me culture in what? Sales organizations. Now, as much as Best Roofing is known for being a world-class roofing contractor, without sales, we would have nothing to perform. So we are a professional sales organization. We have a professional marketing, business development, and sales team that help drive our construction operations and give them opportunities to perform. But one thing you must be mindful of is how easy it can be for one person to take the success of an accomplishment. Sales is a great example, and I'll dive into how you avoid it. Number one, it's easy for a $1 million job opportunity to come forward. It gets negotiated, it gets signed, and what happens? Our salesman or our saleswoman, they ring a bell, they beat their chest. Look what I did. Look what the numbers I did on the board are. But wait a minute. What about the rest of our team? We contributed to the success of that output. Without doing good work, you won't get opportunities. So it begins with your operations team. Then it begins with relationships. We are a relationship business. Without our business development team making relationships, maybe mending relationships, maintaining relationships, we wouldn't be aware of new opportunities. Then those opportunities become proposals. We have an engineering team, we have an estimating team, and we have a takeoff or basically a surveying team that allows a raw roof configuration to become data points that tell you how much it will cost to do this roof. That goes into a proposal that ultimately gets presented to a client. All of those collective efforts allow that salesman or saleswoman succeed. And then ultimately I'm reviewing the contract. So all of these team members align to allow an opportunity to get teed up for success. So what we do at Best Roofing is we recognize that group effort. And what we do is we talk about fundamentals. And we say at Best Roofing that our business model requires teamwork, that everyone must play their position for us to win. It's like a team. So what we do is we recognize our team efforts, how we, at the beginning of the year, we talk about how our goals are aligned based on individual contributions. And when we win, we talk about how we win together. And we divide and we organize our team structure into teams. So we're not just individuals. It's always based on a team of business development, it's marketing, it's project management, construction management, and it's sales. We all win together as a team. Because again, like we talked about the org chart, who's at the top? The client experience. And at the end of the day, a couple things you want to take note of here is in the it's all about me structure. Some of the cons you have is competition, right? We don't want to get to a point where our team members are not playing as a team, where maybe they hold on to an opportunity. Maybe they don't share winning strategies of how to connect with the client better, right? They don't have that emotional connection. We have to avoid that. We all are part of a bigger picture here. We serve a community, and we have to do what's best in the best interest as fiduciaries to our community. And then lastly, it's resistance to collaboration. If one person hogs all the attention and claims all the recognition, there's going to be resentment towards that employee, not just from the sales team, but from the whole organization. It's going to be like, well, I was on the roof in that 95-degree weather. What about me? It's not about you. All you had to do was just present a proposal. So you can quickly see how the sales organization specifically can lead to it some negative cons within the organization, and things that we do to avoid it is values that we repeat and we share, compensation plans based on team goals, and then recognition in public settings based on the team as a whole, not just individual. We talk about the no I in team. We talk about how a team culture can affect the workplace. And here is where collaboration, shared goals, and collective success are prioritized. This is what we talked about. It's the importance of working together as a team and casting a vision of how we all contribute to that success in our individual capacity. One of the things, we've all been part of it, right? Whether it's in, grade school, college, workplace, family, whenever you're in a team environment, you do have the risk of one person doing all the work, or groupthink, where it can maybe you have 5 different unique personalities, but they may be new to working as a team for the first time. So what happens? Slow decision making. They can't get group think or group consensus. So back in my prior life, I was a prosecutor and I did a lot of trial work. So one of the first things we did in jury selection was when we were speaking to jurors, right? You have a jury pool, you have 12 jurors that sit on a trial. And one of the first thing you do after you select a jury is what? You select a juror foreperson, a foreman, forewoman. And the purpose of that is you need to have a group captain, so to speak, to shepherd a decision-making process, right? Because ultimately you could just be off, you can be sidetracked, you can go on a tangent, but you need one person to kind of keep everyone aligned. And you do that and take that same mentality to allow for a decision to be made. Because the last thing you want in trial settings, especially if it's a criminal trial, is you don't want to have what we call a mistrial or a hung jury where they don't make a decision. It's a waste of judicial resources. You have to come back. Maybe you have witnesses that come and go or leave, don't want to cooperate. So you really want to make sure you get a decision that first time. So it's critical when you pick that jury that they have the ability to contribute with unique perspectives. You don't want to have all the same perspective, but then you have a person who has the ability to lead and bring everyone to a decision. So you always want to find that profile within there. Same thing applies to your organization. When you have group assignments, you need to make sure that you have different elements of personalities. At Best Roofing, we have something called a DISC profile. And individuals they take a personality assessment, if you would, and they based on the questions they answer, the output is where they're heavily dominated or leaning towards. And it's based on DISC. And that's based on whether you're a driver, whether you're innovative, whether you're more compliant driven. And what that tells you is if you have elements of a team where you can bring different perspective. One person is going to be black and white. I'm a compliant driven person. If this is what the specs say, this is what I'm going on, right? So they live in the world of black and white. Then you have maybe a person who is and they're going to say, well, I live in the world of gray. I bring different perspective. So now all of a sudden you have the challenge to the black and white. Then you have someone who's D, who's considered like a driver. That's your juror foreperson. They're going to be the person who drives decisions to make sure that we don't just talk about it, but we do something about it. And then we also have the S. So we want to make sure that we bring all these people together when we have a team dynamic to allow all the perspectives on what we call a 360 decision-making tree in our groups, in our teams. And that's what allows Best Roofing to be dynamic in decision-making and not just be so black and white. And that allows us to be what? Innovative, to bring client solutions, the best value. So that's one way that we do it at Best Roofing to avoid just maybe one side of things being dominated in a group activity or delay decision-making, for example. We make sure we take into consideration those things. Everything we do, we talk about team. We do a lot of team huddles. We'll get to that later on. But one thing I would emphasize here is you can't just talk about it. You can't just say it's a team over the individual culture and then recognize individuals at the end of the year or in your team huddles or town halls with anniversaries. If you say it, you got to do it. If you preach it, you got to walk it. And that's something that we do. And we're very mindful of Best Roofing is if we're a team environment, then we have to walk the walk. And we'll talk about how we do that later on. This is one of your examples. How do we do what we do at Best Roofing and emphasize teamwork? Well, here it is in a caption, in a picture. Everyone comes to Best Roofing for a purpose, right? And our purpose is bigger than earning a paycheck. Yes, we need money to pay for mortgages, rent, school, food, right? But we're doing it for our families. We're doing something larger than just coming for a paycheck. And the most important thing to see your teammates as something bigger than just an employee is when you see them interact with their families. So one of the great things that we do at Best Roofing is we do something called a family picnic. It's basically we do something called Timely, Best Roofing World Cup, right? We have a World Cup going on right now in the United States, but we do a World Cup in our organization. And it's so fitting because we have people from all different regions of the world, right? We have Caribbean, we have European, we have South American, Central American, all over the world. And we see that dynamic in a group setting, and we actually break up our company into different teams. So we have a construction team, service team, administration team, and an executive team, and we play in a soccer tournament. And then we have a champion at the end. But it's a way that we can all kind of break bread, be on a playing field, have fun together. We have face painting, jump houses, activities for the kids, the family. We have food there, barbecuing. But it's more than just that. It's seeing your peers with their family, understanding the why they do what they do, who they do it for. Because when we talk a little bit later about, especially in the construction industry, you rely on a peer-driven company because they actually care about you, not about just the job being done. And that's how, when you do more activities like this, is how you can put what we call trust deposits in a bank. And we'll talk about what that term means. So when we talk about a team culture and what it means to us and what it should mean to you, we talk about peer accountability in team culture, and it refers to responsibility that team members have to hold each other accountable, not just for their their actions and consequences, but also what they do well. And it involves team members that serve as an unofficial mentor to one another, not just on making sure that things get done in an orderly fashion, but to provide feedback, coaching moments, life moments, and ensure that everyone meets the team standards and goals. And this last bit is very important. When prior to coming on to Best Roofing, I used to work in a law firm in Boston, and one of the things that I did was I used to represent the NFL. And when I went to one of the teams in the NFL, the Pittsburgh Steelers, I talk about this example because it's just so simple but so true. Mike Tomlin of the Pittsburgh Steelers had a sign behind his desk, and it said, "The standard is the standard." And I look at that, and I think I know what that means. It's pretty obvious, but I want to hear the why. Why is that the only verbiage you have in your office? And he goes, "Look, I have 52 or 53 men on this team. Okay. And I got divas. I got superstars, right? At the time, it was like Ben Roethlisberger, Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell. I got divas. They make millions of dollars. Then I got rookies. Then I got old veterans who just maybe are on the practice squad. If I show favoritism or preferential treatment during the time that we need to grow and set standards, then I don't have a team. I don't have a standard. How do I have accountability for some but not for all? So during the summer training camp, if I have padded practice, I have padded practice for everyone, not just for some, unless there's like an injury, right? If we're running sprints, we're all running sprints. Okay. And he said the standard is a standard. If you're late for practice, and the rule is you get docked $10,000, that's the rule for all. Because if this is your standard and this is what it means to be a team, to have an identity, and you make exceptions for somebody, he said, then that's my standard. Take that up and apply it to your company. So the last sentence, ensuring that everyone meets the team standards and goals. As a manager or a teammate, if you're responsible to make sure that we're doing work in a safe way, and we say that we're safe 365, that we're tied off on every single job, we have a hard hat on every job, but one day one of our employees forgets to wear maybe steel-toe boots, forgets to wear PPE like his gloves or his hard hat, and we make an exception that day just because whatever reason he forgot it in his other car, his wife's car, whatever. That's your standard. And all of a sudden someone sees it, they may not know the why or what happened, and that becomes your standard. Someone else may feel permission or empowered to do the same thing. You have to make sure that if there's detours from your standards, you address it immediately. And peer accountability. It can't just be the executives, the management, holding people accountable. You can't be everywhere. We have over 53 jobs going on at the same time. We have over 200 employees. You can't be there to monitor behaviors to ensure that the standards are being met every minute of the day when we only have a few executives in this company. So it's imperative that our teammates and every member of Best Roofing feels the importance of the standards, believes in the standards, and holds each other accountable. And how do we do that at Best Roofing? I mentioned it before. It's something called a trust deposit, right? So think of your bank account. Okay, you got a bank account, and you go to the bank and you try to do a withdrawal, and nothing's inside. If you don't put anything in the bank, you can't take anything out of the bank. So at Best Roofing, we tell all of our employees, think of yourself as having a trust deposit. Before you go to an employee or a peer and you want to give what's called constructive feedback, hey, I know you tried hard, I know you did, but you didn't do it the right way. Or hey, you're not wearing your PPE, your personal protective equipment. Before you do that, think to yourself, have I done anything to deposit trust in the account between me and Jan, for example, right? Or one of my employees? Have I done anything to show that they can trust me? Because if I'm just always going to somebody and giving what's perceived as constructive feedback, but it comes across as maybe just being negative, how's that going to be perceived? That I'm just always coming after you, right? I'm a jerk. I'm unfair. I'm hard. But if I do trust deposits, I recognize, hey, great job today, tying off. Way to, I love how you did that anchor point today. You really made sure that it was going to be protection for everyone. The way that you did what we call, we have control access zones on a roof to make sure that everyone understands where the roof line is. Thank you so much. Those are perfect lines. You made sure that everyone understood the plan today. Something little like that. What we call, like even the sports world, it's basically just like a pat on the butt kind of thing, right? Pat on the back. That's the same mentality that we have to have here. You can't just come after someone and make correction advice without the deposit. You can't make a withdrawal unless you have previously put in deposits. So that's something that we talk about, peer accountability characteristics for all our teammates. And why? Because look at what you have here. You have men and women working 20 plus stories up in the air. Here you have what's called a parapet wall, something that you have protection in place where you know where the end of the roof is. But that's not in every situation. We have roofs that have steep slope, and we're still 20 stories up in the air. So you're tied off, where margin for error on safety is virtually zero. So it's critically important that, yes, we can put together a plan, how you're going to tie off, how you're going to work, how you're going to be an extra line of protection for as like an emergency, like the emergency in a parachute. But if we're not there to physically install and physically watch, how do we know it's being done? Because of the teammates' care about their fellow teammates. They have participated in our team events. They understand that we all are here for a why, our employees, and that we all represent a bigger picture. So that's what it's all about. And what you're going to see here is we take pictures of our men and women that work in teams. They're more than just that. They're family. They do family events together. We go to our team huddles together. We play in soccer tournaments together. We have routine events recognizing the hard work and the dangerous work that everyone does. And here's the blueprint that Best Roofing does to get to that point. Number one, you got to define clear team goals and values. You have to foster open communication. You must build trust and mutual respect. And you got to recognize and reward what? Team efforts, not individual efforts. And then that's how you can implement the peer accountability throughout the organization. We talked about what my job is here. You can't have goals that just don't mean anything. It must align with the broader mission and vision of the company. Long term, not just short term, because that's how you build culture. You must have core goals, and you must publicize it, recognize it, and repeat it. Best Roofing, we have a little pamphlet that we give to all of our employees. It's our story, and we identify what we stand for and what we believe in. And we talk about it and we repeat it. An example is we work in teams. We talk about clear, concise communication for all stakeholders. One of my pet peeves in this organization that we recognize is when someone just forwards an email with no context, right? What am I supposed to do with that? So we recognize that one of our values is clear, concise communication for all stakeholders. So what do we say? Hey, so and so, not going to call anyone out in our organization, but is this clear, concise communication? No, you're right. I was just busy. Next email comes out. Hey, John, see below. Client is asking for a revision to the plans. Now all of a sudden, okay, I know my direction. And what does it do? Saves me time. And it ultimately serves the client's purpose because I don't have to call them and ask them and waste their time. We want to promote transparency, create communication channels. We have BRTV TVs throughout the entire organization, and it's recognizing jobs that we are completing, recognitions maybe in the industry from manufacturers, from vendors, from clients, maybe client reviews, and ultimately it shows the hard work we're doing. We show anniversaries, how long some of our employees have been here, 20, 25 years. And then lastly, how do you maintain values? You recognize it. Every quarter at Best Roofing, we have what we call huddles, and it's where we recognize our team based on 3 criteria. Number 1, safety. Number 2, quality. And then number 3, production. What that basically means is, did we produce the work in the lens of which the client was satisfied, right? And then when you recognize teammates on those 3 core values, that is the pillar of your organization. That's your foundation. And then what happens is we show where everyone stands on a ranking system based on job site visits we've done and project reviews, and we show where everyone stands. And I can promise you this: no one wants to be last twice in a row, and everyone's fighting to be first. But more importantly than that, everyone claps and cheers for the success of their teammates because they know how hard it is to meet those 3 standards consistently and routinely and be on the top of the mountain. But all it does is that peer-driven competition, it drives reinforcement and success, and again, for the client experience. We talked about leading by example, especially as leaders. Again, think about the 3 takeaways I want you to have today is number 1, the goldfish model. As leaders, or even in your personal life or wherever it may be, you're the goldfish inside the fishbowl. You're always being watched of what you do and how you do it and who you do it with. Number 2, the beach ball effect. When you hold it up, you may be seeing life through red. Someone else on the other side's blue. The other 2 sides, it could be yellow, could be green. You have to be mindful that there's different perspectives on that beach ball and that you have to get the 360 look to understand their reality. And then lastly is the trust bank. Before you give constructive criticism, have I provided positive feedback? Because you can't make a withdrawal without a deposit. And that's ultimately how you get respect, buy-in, and beliefs. Celebrate your team wins with the team. And make sure that the standard is the standard. You have accountability and goals in place. Make sure you reinforce it. And at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. And ladies and gentlemen, this is pretty much the end of my presentation. A lot of this is kind of repetitive at the end. We've talked about some of the negatives that you want to avoid, constructive confrontation. For leaders or any parts of your organization that you're in, your job is to provide hope, vision, and clarity to your teammates and make sure that you set the standard and make sure that that standard is not broken. And if it is, that it gets back on track as soon as possible so it doesn't get deteriorated. And if you guys have any questions for me on what we discussed, feel free to let me know. I may have a minute or 2 there to address anything. But that's how we do what we do at Best Roofing. And if you ever want to come see how we do it in live time, we welcome any tours. If I'm here, I'm happy to do it. Diana, our business development team, they're more than welcome to take you on a tour. We host people, property managers all the time.
Excellent. Excellent job as always, my man. Thank you. And folks, Anthony just mentioned he does have a couple of minutes. He will have to skip out in about 3 or 4 minutes. But if you have any questions on the course material, please stick to the course material. You can put it into the Q&A, and he may be able to answer a couple of them. For those of you who have not yet enabled or pressed your chat button, please press the chat button, not to be confused with the Q&A. The chat is where we place the link for the required post-webinar form so you can get your credit. And it also helps, it's a second layer of proof of attendance. Please do that, and I'll place the link in there once again in just a moment. Anthony, we have a question from Rainey. Do you serve Orange County?
We do. We are statewide. We're actually doing a Holiday Inn right now in Orlando.
Excellent. So, folks, oh, Anthony, another question. Let's say somebody has a roofing company and they're happy with their roofers, but they want another arm, somebody that may be able to come in and make sure they're not getting screwed. Can you guys also act as a third arm, as a consulting organization to make sure that whomever they are using is doing the right thing?
We do. We do all the time. Even our consultants, we may not be working on a project, but they
Right.
ask us for our opinion. Hey, look at this spec. Does this look right? Am I missing anything here? Even though it's a job we're not even doing, we are stewards of the roofing industry. We want to
Right.
make sure that not just how we do things at Best Roofing, but we want to raise the standard of the industry as a whole. And we're
Right.
more than happy to make sure that at the end of the day, you have what you're buying, and more importantly, you have what you need.
Absolutely. And for anybody here who may not be in the community association world, you might be in the commercial real estate world. Anthony, do you work with commercial real estate as well?
Yes, we do. We do commercial, we do residential, we do warehouse, new construction. More and more, we're being asked to do more than what we typically have done in the past because there's a need for a certain level of roofers. There's a lot of roofers in the market, but only so many can have the what we call applicator approvals from the manufacturers, and we have them. We have them all. We've been in business since 1978,
Right.
and we're longer time to come.
And pardon that question. I've only had my one cup of coffee today. I see right behind you there, it says schools, condominiums, retail. I should have known. So, pardon my lack of paying attention there for a quick second. So it doesn't look like we have any other questions right now, and we want to be mindful of your time. I know you have an appointment waiting for you in the lobby right now. Before you head out, Anthony, the best way, other than the evaluation, of course, your contact information appears there. Are there any other ways that is the best way to contact you or Best Roofing?
Yeah, I think we're going to put Diana's contact information, who is our vice president of business development.
Okay.
She makes sure she's the best point contact. If there's any ever a question, she makes sure that she's on it immediately. She knows exactly who to go to. She's like our corporate point guard. She knows exactly who to find and when and where to find them.
The Jalen Brunson, my Knicks reference, the Jalen Brunson of Best Roofing. There you go. All right.
Yep.
I love it.
All right.
I
Well,
would say the Messi of Best Roofing, but
uh,
I might. I'm a Portuguese fan, and I got this thing.
understood. Understood. Well, thank you so much. I know you got to get out of here. We can't wait to do this with you again next time. Thank you so much. And you have a wonderful day, Anthony. You take care, man.
Thanks, Anthony. We appreciate it so
Thank you so
much.
much.
Ciao for now.